Hello and welcome to Dog Day Chess. In this episode I'd like to review another game that I played. In this game both players had very strong attacks on opposite wings, and the initiative was a critical factor in determining whose attack would lead to victory. I'm playing white and I start with e4, and we continue with some standard moves. We're in the Ruy Lopez opening now. Black plays queen to e7, which is a very unusual move. The preferred move at this point is to play a6. And I follow that by castling kingside. This is the last book move that we play. Black now plays d6, which takes us out of book. And I continue by bringing my rook over to e1. I'm putting some pressure on the e file, which the black queen and king are both occupying at the moment. After this, I'll try to open up the center. Black plays h6, and I follow up with d4. We exchange pawns, and now my knight adds more pressure to the c6 knight. Black brings his bishop to d7, defending the knight and clearing the way for castling. And then I play knight to f5. This move does advance my knight, but it is rather early in the game, and it probably would have been better for me to develop one of my other pieces instead. For example, knight to c3. In any case, this move does threaten the queen, so the queen moves to safety on f6. Then I play queen to d5, and the knight comes out to challenge my queen. I didn't want my queen to have to retreat from her aggressive position, so I exchanged the knights instead. Then I played c3. This is a prophylactic move to prevent the black knight from going to b4 and threatening my queen and the c2 square, a square that the knight could use to fork my two rooks. And now black castles. So I develop my other bishop to e3, attacking the queen side where the black king is. The a7 pawn is under attack, so he pushes it, kicking back my bishop. However, this move does weaken his king's position a little bit. I bring my bishop back to e2, and then black's bishop comes out to attack my queen. Here I reluctantly move my queen down to d2. I wasn't particularly happy about moving the queen to this square, but it was the best square I could find for her under the circumstances. All the other squares that I could move her to were either controlled by black or would block one of my own pieces. Then black brings his queen to f6, the first step to getting her to g6, where she can attack the g2 focal point. And then I play b4. So here I've started storming the black king. This is a common tactic when kings are castled on opposite sides of the board. The black queen goes to g6, again putting pressure on d2, but also directly attacking my e-pawn. So I shore it up with f3. Black plays b5, trying to meet me in the middle, and I play a4, continuing my storm. Then the bishop goes to h3. This move threatens a mate with queen to g2, and my pawn is pinned so it can't capture the bishop. So I play g4 to stop the mating threat and to trap the bishop. g4 is defended by my f-pawn, and also by x-ray by my e2 bishop. And black responds by pushing his h-pawn to attack my g-pawn again. But instead of trying to defend black's attack, I counterattack on the queen side. Both of us have strong attacks in this position, but black must address my attack before continuing with his own. If he neglects to do that and continues his attack, with h captures g4 for example, then my pawn can capture the knight. Black can continue and capture my f-pawn with a discovered check and an attack on my bishop, but I can block the check with my other bishop, and after the pawn captures my bishop, my rook captures the h-pawn and is threatening rook to a8 mate. The black king must move to b8 in order to avoid the immediate mate, but I still have an unstoppable attack in this position. I can play queen to d5, and from here she can go to b5 and then b7 with mate. Even if black were to sacrifice his own queen by capturing my bishop, it would delay the checkmate by only a few moves. So in the actual game, black did not ignore my queenside attack. He addressed it by capturing the pawn that was threatening his knight. However, this move opens up the a-file for my rook. From here I play g5 to delay black's breakthrough on the king side. This allows the bishop to retreat. Then I bring my rook up to check the king, and black blocks it with his knight. The knight is now pinned, so I bring my bishop up to attack it again. This move actually threatens rook to b8 mate, so the black king comes out to attack my rook. But I answer that move with queen to a2. Believe it or not, this move actually prevents black from capturing my rook. If the black king were to capture my rook, I would be able to play a combination that would force a mate. I'll show you that combination a bit later. Instead, black captures my pawn with check. Here I think my opponent sensed that he was in trouble. He took the initiative and desperately tried to keep it. I moved my king out of check, and the queen checked it again. I moved the king to e3, and the queen checked him on g5. Moved my king to d3, and then the bishop came out to e6, attacking my queen. I need to keep the queen on that a file to keep the threats alive, so I move her to a5. Now the bishop comes out and checks me, and I fall back to c2. The black queen comes down to g2, pinning my bishop, which was already attacked by black's bishop. I could have moved my king to d1 to help defend my bishop, but I decided to follow a different strategy. I decided to give my king some shelter by moving my knight to d2. Sheltering my king will allow me to take back the initiative and continue with my attack. Black captured the sacrificed bishop, and I played rook to a1. Thanks to the shelter provided by my knight, black doesn't have any more effective attacks against my king. He played bishop to d1 check. At this point, black is ahead in material, so he's trying to give some back to take the edge off of my attack. He actually sacrifices his bishop and his queen to get rid of my a1 rook. My king captures the bishop, and then the queen skewers it to exchange herself for my rook. And then black regains all of his lost material, and then some, by capturing my trapped rook. But this is a fatal mistake. Now we'll see the mating combination that I mentioned earlier. I played bishop to b6 check. The king is forced to b7. Next my queen comes in with a check. The king goes to c6. And queen to c7 is mate. So I thought this game was exciting because it had a lot of attacking and a lot of tense moments. For most of the game, it was unclear to me which player would get the better of the other. But in the end, it was my ability to shelter my king from my opponent's relentless attacks that made the difference. It allowed me to take back the initiative and continue with a decisive attack against the black king. As always, I hope you learned something from this episode, and thanks for watching.